Thank you so much for joining us today for our webinar about the customer experience. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. Today's agenda, I just want to mention a couple of things. So today's topic, there's so much, right, that goes into exceptional customer service and experience and all that. And, in our next hour, we can't necessarily cover it all, but we're really focusing today, for the most part, not entirely, but for the most part, on, online customer reviews. And we want to focus on that today, partly because our subject matter expert knows a whole lot about this, but also because it is just so impactful for businesses right now, those online reviews and how much we're paying attention to them and how do we respond to the good, the bad, and the ugly and that kind of thing. So I wanted to mention that that's like our specific topic today. And again, we're going to be talking and having a conversation with Leslie Tayne, our subject matter expert, here in just a few minutes. It is only an hour, so we're going to keep trekking through. I've got some questions for Leslie, and then I hope you do as well after. So, and I do want to mention, we are here to help. This webinar is brought to you by the Watertown Oswego SBDC office. I'm sorry I didn't mention that before. My name is Erika Davis. I am the Economic Recovery Consultant for the office there. Yeah, so I do want to just further introduce Leslie. She is an award-winning financial attorney and author of the book Life in Debt. She has over 20 years of experience in the consumer and business financial debt solutions area. And like we were saying, and Leslie's actually also the founder and managing director of the Tayne Law Group too, which is based in New York. And so Leslie, when I listened to your presentation through the Restaurant Association, obviously you have experience too, right? Helping restaurants, right? You and your husband are very much involved in the restaurant business somehow. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. We are involved for very different purposes and angles. So I am a financial attorney. I help consumers and business owners resolve debt. So I've been practicing this area for over 20 years. So I have many clients who are business owners for a variety of different areas, including restaurants. My husband, in converse to that, is not an attorney and is in the restaurant business. So I have not only my experience as a financial attorney helping clients resolve strained finances and financial related issues, but I do understand from an insider's perspective what the restaurant and catering business is like.
Yeah, you must be very busy right now, I can imagine, especially with, since COVID and everything, I can only imagine. So we really appreciate your time here today with us too. So my first question, Leslie, is how do online reviews work for restaurants and other businesses?
So online reviews work a couple of different ways, depending on what really your goals are. So they're important to enable users really to obtain extensive information really at no cost about your business. So they could simply through their phone, tablet, or their desktop find out information about your business or other information related to your business. So just with one single click in about a second, they can learn a lot about who you are and who your business is. The web, of course, allows users to broadcast their thoughts on your business. So the online reviews could work for you or against you, or they could be somewhat actually neutral, where it's not really doing much for you depending on the type of business that you're in. Restaurants use online reviews perhaps more often than others in terms of sales. The reviews for restaurants are directly tied very often to their sales. Other service and retail-like businesses as well that have online sales use the web as well and reviews for their products and services. I can't stress enough as a business owner that the importance of monitoring what's on the web about your business.
Yeah, we're going to be talking more about that for sure. So what sites do people typically use to review businesses, and which ones maybe should our attendees pay most attention to? And they're not necessarily the ones on the screen either.
Right. I mean, there are a lot of them, and that really depends on the type of business that you're in. So, for example, if you're in the restaurant business, you might be looking to certain restaurant review sites. If you're in the retail business, you definitely want to do a search and find out what pops up first. And if that's a Google review, then you want to make, or Google, you want to make sure that you're coming up in the top of that search. So there's Google reviews, there's TripAdvisor, but TripAdvisor is really used mostly for those traveling, and travelers are the ones who are really reviewing that. Yelp, Facebook as well. Facebook has a search engine in it, and that will come up too. Apple Maps will pull, just so you know, from Yelp, and Google Maps will pull from Google reviews. So sometimes it depends on the device that the person is using and where they're going to get the information. But again, you and your business, since we're talking about a diverse amount of type of businesses here, not just restaurants, you should really find out where your customers are looking for you and how they're finding you. And that's where you should look to make sure that you are up to date in any of the search engines and the databases and otherwise, so that the information is accurate and up to date.
Yeah, it seems to me that certainly the difference between brick and mortar, right? Like our retailers who are here and maybe other businesses, you know, that might be a difference as far as, because I know like Google, you know, they show your location and, you know, those kinds of things. So that's all tied together. So I don't know if, you know, I know that Google reviews are big for everybody for the most part, but.
Google reviews are very important. There's no doubt. And again, depending on the type of business that you have. So I have a service-based industry. So most people will find me through a referral source, but then there's a credibility piece. They want to look and see, you know, what are people saying about the business, and they may not even be looking for your review. That's the important thing to know about online reviews, that they could just be looking for an address or a particular type of shop that sells sewing machines. And all of a sudden you're going to pop up, and it'd be great that yours popped up with 5-star reviews. And because if one pops up with no reviews and one pops up with several reviews, think about it yourself. Which one would you be more likely to look at and look to doing business with? So it's all from the perspective of the end user. But again, you need to be on top of where it works best for your business.
Yeah, yeah. So not sure how you know, well, you're going to be able to answer this, but we were interested in whether or not, you know, visitors and locals use different customer review sites. Is there a tendency that way at all?
They will, because you'll often see them on the local Facebook groups. So you'll see like a mommy group, or you'll see there's one that I'm very familiar with in South Florida called Eat South Florida, and they're reviewing restaurants all the time. And the people who are reviewing those are generally not tourists. Those are people who have subscribed to those pages and follow those pages. And by following those pages, they're interested in the topics. So they're looking for information, and then they're providing information. So yes, TripAdvisor, again, wouldn't necessarily be your locals. That wouldn't be something that a local would go to, because they're not there on a vacation or a trip. They're there because they live there. So you're more likely to find the local Facebook pages where people can do that. Or if there are town related Facebook pages, I think you'll see that more likely than not, the locals will be there. You definitely want to have somebody active in those groups. So if you have a business that relies on reviews, it's my suggestion that as part of good social media marketing, that somebody is monitoring those pages on a regular basis in case your business is brought up on those pages, or in case they ask for a question about where they can find a particular product or service or type of food they're looking for. So be sure to be on top of those type of local sites, because those are the people that are going to frequent you regularly. And from a local perspective, especially small town wise, you definitely want to be in a position where you're perceived and your reputation is such that the locals really like going there. Keep in mind that what tourists will look for when they go to local communities is sometimes what the locals are doing. If the locals don't like a particular product, service, or otherwise, then you might have some challenges with those visiting.
Yeah, definitely. And as tourists, we always like to know where the locals want to go, right? And so, yeah, I think the message here too, thanks for sharing all that, is just you got to pay attention to both, right? Your Facebook community pages and also those TripAdvisor reviews and that kind of thing, for sure. Especially if you're in the tourist restaurant, retail, you know, business, maybe not so much for others, right?
You're relying on tourism, then those are very important sites to monitor and keep track of how your business looks. Continue to upload photos onto that site, be an active participant on the sites, be aware of what your competition is doing. All of that benefits your business.
So Leslie, how important is it, right, to respond now that we're talking about not just monitoring, but really, potentially responding to those positive and negative online reviews from customers?
Super important to respond to all kinds of reviews. Positive reviews really show you who your cheerleaders are. They're really the promoters of your business and people who are going to rave about your company and want to tell it to a friend. So these are people who are going to keep coming back to your business again and again. Why it's so important to respond to them. Thank them for reviewing now, and be authentic and personal. Keep it short and sweet, and even consider sharing it on your social media channels. But remember, just because they wrote a positive review and you're in your mind, you're like, oh, good, it was a positive review. Send a thank you and say, we really appreciate that you shared your experience. Thank you. We look forward to seeing you again.
Yeah, great. I think my next question here was, how should you respond to positive online reviews? Anything else you can think of there?
I can certainly add more to that. One, respond quickly. Don't take a long time to respond. Personalize the response. Be authentic and personal. Again, like I said before in the previous question, always thank the customer and keep it short. If you're not really a wordsmith and you don't know what to say, just say thank you so much. I appreciate the review. Don't overstuff it and write a gigantic response. It's just completely unnecessary.
Who has time for that right now anyway, right?
Especially reading that, you'll lose them after the first sentence, but keep it short and sweet. Also share the positive reviews if you can on your social media channels. Let people know that, hey, we got a great review today. Come visit us. They really liked our whatever it was today. And if you're getting lots of reviews, target the ones specifically that you want to respond to. So, it really is one of the most important things in terms of marketing these days, which is getting online customer reviews. So 93% of customers say that online reviews actually impact their decision-making and their purchasing. So that's why it's super crucial to really tidy up any of your online presence and ensure that you're really putting your best foot forward in terms of the appearance of your business. And so once you've kind of nailed down the process of asking for reviews, it's just going to be very natural to you. We do it on a regular basis. Anytime a client tells us something positive, I say, would you mind sharing that on social media for us? We'd really love other people to know that you thought we were kind today, or that you had a good experience with us, or that you feel like we've given you great customer service. Yeah,
awesome. Okay, so now for the maybe not so great online reviews, and how should our folks respond to those negative online reviews?
Well, depending on where they're written, you can flag them through Google, although they're not very receptive to taking them down. But Google, Yelp, and Yelp too is very challenging that way. But you can try to flag it with the site and try to get it taken down. I would do that first and then consider taking a deep breath, because as a business owner, you take a lot personally, and you definitely don't want to let your emotions get away with responding. You want to really stay professional. So certainly say, thank you for sharing your experience, and we're sorry that your experience didn't match exactly your expectations with what you were coming to our business for. Really take responsibility and show that you're taking an effort to correct the issues raised to make sure the situation is right. So responding to negative reviews will also help you stand out to your competitors. A lot of competitors don't pay attention to reviews. So customers or potential customers will remember the companies that do and don't, ones that just completely ignore it. When I look at online reviews myself and I am taking a look at negative reviews, I do read what they wrote. Sometimes people write things that are so out there that me as a potential customer is not going to take that experience seriously, and I'm still going to move forward. But I do like to see, okay, so the business responded and said, we're really sorry that you had that experience that day. Our phone lines were down, and we realized that you might have had trouble calling in. And while that's not an excuse, we do thank you for your patience. Again, I'm just making that up. Or if they say one of your employees was super rude to them, and say, thank you for bringing that to our attention, and we will take a look at our training of our staff more closely based on your review, and we appreciate that, and hope that you're willing to come back in again. We hope that you'll have the experience of good customer service. So again, turn the negative into a positive and don't just ignore it. There's many times when I've seen negative reviews even about my own business that are completely unfounded. And yes, it's super upsetting because I work very hard and I work hard for my clients. And it's disappointing when somebody says, hey, we actually had one recently. Somebody wrote, my parents had a really bad experience. Well, their parents didn't have a bad experience. In fact, their parents had a great experience with us. And we called up the parents. This was an adult child who wrote this and said, why did your adult son write this review about us? Well, you guys had a great experience. And the mother was like, yes, we did have a great experience. I don't know why he did that. And then they took it down and wrote a really positive review. So sometimes you can go to the source if you're aware of who the source is, especially as a business owner, and say, hey, I saw you wrote this online review. Is there a reason why you wrote that when we know that we were so successful for you? And see if you can work with them to get it taken off on the side and resolve their issues. But otherwise, if you can't, or it looks like I've seen one that you have no idea who that is, especially when you have regular customers. You're like, who would write something like that? And unfortunately, again, because certain sites like Google and Yelp allow people to just basically write whatever they want without a lot of policing of it. The challenge is that people will write things about your business, and it could be a competitor. It could just be somebody who doesn't like you. It could be a disgruntled ex-employee, and unfortunately it's there and it's very hard to get it taken down. That's why personally, I always look at reviews with a grain of salt. Obviously I want to see good ones, but when I look and I see negative ones, I want to understand, why is this person writing this negative review? Is there any substance to it? But again, you as a business owner, if you can't get through to the individual who wrote it, it's my strong recommendation to work with the site and report it as a false or incorrect or fake review and see if you can get it removed. And if not, then, you do have an option in some cases for a defamation suit. And we have sent letters to people who've written reviews saying that basically what you wrote is defamation and we're going to sue you. So you could take it that far if they wrote something to you and said you're a total scumbag and you're stealing from people, and they basically defamed you, or that, your business is a restaurant business and you have, you serve bugs in your food. So with that said, you may have a claim, cause of action for defamation, and that you definitely want to consult an attorney about. Sometimes those cease and desist letters are very powerful when they're sent out to those who've done that.
Right. Yeah. And you think, like, you just made me think, like, oh my gosh, competitors actually will do terrible things like that, but I'm sure it definitely must happen.
It does. And you could be an innocent and you have no idea where that review comes from. I'll give you an example of ours. Just recently on our New York City, somebody wrote, these attorneys are not experienced. Well, if you talk to me, after 25 years in the debt business, you would not have that experience. So, and there's nobody else who's giving legal advice. So who would it be why would somebody write that? Where would that come from? We can't even, it's so broad. We don't even know if it's accurate or whether it was really even meant for us.
Right.
It would be really unusual that we would get such a review like that. And so again, while you could see that it's upsetting to me because our reputation is very important to us, and we've reported it, there's just, even though we'll probably respond and because it just happened, respond and say, thank you for writing that, please contact us so we can learn more about what your experience was. It still is upsetting because you work so hard as a business owner to maintain your reputation and do right by your customers and clients. So, and sometimes you're just going to get that. And there are people who compete with you that want to write bad things. And we've had, again, like I said, I've known of disgruntled employees who will go to certain sites and write things. That's Glassdoor as well. And you just want to be aware of what's out there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So what I'm also hearing, from you too, as far as responding to negative online reviews, is try not to make assumptions about where it's coming from or why, right? Or jumping to conclusions necessarily, but, and also potentially not taking things personally, right? With the whole idea of sort of stepping back maybe before you respond.
That's why it's good to have your media people do it, although they will take it
Yeah.
personally too. But your marketing staff,
Mhm.
it is very upsetting. Get it out. Say, I can't believe they wrote this. This is really upsetting, and it's not fair. It's not right. Get it out without writing that, and
Right.
then write an appropriate, mature, business professional like response. And again, try the other roads as well.
Yeah, yeah. And if you need help with those responses, right, then, seek that help out. Like you said, if you have marketing people on board with you, or, even
Your local business attorney might be able to help you,
yeah.
defamation attorney. Again, there's lots of information online that you can find about how to respond appropriately to give you the language that you need if you're not a great wordsmith.
Yeah. Yeah, right. And even SBDC advisors could be at least first people to go to try to get some help if you're really in a stuck situation, which I think that was also my next question. What should I do if I get that negative review that I really think could potentially be damaging, to the reputation of my business?
So again, if you think it's going to be permanently damaging to you, then my recommendation is to seek out a defamation attorney and see if there's a way that you can find out who the reviewer was. You're never going to find the information through the review site, but again, you can try to continually send that send the information back to the review site and report it. But stay professional in your response. It's okay to point out that they might be wrong and why they're wrong, especially if you have proof. But don't try to also then create some more positive reviews around that, so that the negative review is one of many reviews that have been very positive. Whenever I see that, I'm sure other people in the audience feel the same way, but whenever I see one negative review, sometimes you just know that there's grumpy people and disgruntled people, and some people, especially today more than ever, the online is a very easy way for people to vent. They may be just having a moment themselves, but try to get more positive reviews surrounding that so it gets buried.
Yeah, that's great. That's great advice for sure. So you talked a little bit already about using social media, right, to build your business's reputation in general. And I think, a lot of what I was hearing too is that, we're all looking for that sort of, more personal engagement, especially online, right? Because we're fed so much and that kind of thing. So talk a little bit more about how to use social media appropriately and also effectively in increasing the reputation of your business.
So you need to know where your customers are. And if you're in a restaurant business, they like visuals. So Instagram is very big for that, even TikTok. So find, where are your customers? Maybe you have a younger customer who, again, would be more likely to be on TikTok. If you have customers, even retail for that purposes, but you need to do a little bit of research to understand where your customer base is and where they're coming from. You might ask the question when they come into your store, restaurant, or your office and say, how did you find us? Keep track of how they found you, keep a spreadsheet, and then you can go and market on those pages. Of course, there's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, there's Pinterest, there's TikTok. There's so many platforms. And if you're new to the social media world, taking them all on at one time is going to be very challenging, especially as a business person. So find the ones that work the best. I think it's important to have a Facebook page and post on Facebook on a regular basis. That doesn't mean that posting on Facebook means that you have sponsored ads. That may not be where your clients are coming from, but Facebook is a good place and an alternative to find you. I'll give you an example. So what I find if I'm looking for deck builders, and as a deck builder, I might go online and see a bunch of deck builders, but I want to see what projects they've done and what the projects look like. I'll go to their Facebook page to look at the projects that they worked on where they've posted multiple pictures. So sometimes on the website, you have some projects, but on the Facebook page, it's more up to date because it's easier to update on Facebook than it is on a website. So there may be more up to date, more recent posts that I want to look at. So I think that's an important place to start. But again, it depends on the type of business that you have. So Twitter may not work for your business at all. And that may be not one of the social media platforms that you use on a regular basis. Same thing with LinkedIn. Maybe you're not in the services business. a more professional services business, and that doesn't really work for you. Where are your people coming from? And I think you need to know that before you go and you spend money and you hire somebody for thousands of dollars a month who's going to do X amount of posts for you and this and that. That's all good and well, but before you put money into your marketing program and your marketing team, where and what purpose are you marketing for? So for us, we use marketing for a lot, the social media channels for a lot of different reasons. So on Twitter, we use a little bit differently. We're not necessarily getting clients off of Twitter, but what we use Twitter for my business is positioning me as an expert in credit and debt. So it's the same thing on Facebook and Instagram. So we're at Tayne Law Group for that. In other cases, we're on Twitter at Leslie H. Tayne ESQ. So we have two different branding images here, and one is the law firm and one is me personally as a expert in credit and debt. So with that said, there's a reason why we would post certain things onto certain sites and otherwise. Posting, it doesn't have to be that complex. There are platforms that you could use where you set it up, but make sure your pictures are good, make sure the information is relevant, and monitor what the responses that you get and start to see where where the information is coming from. Yes, you could do boosted ads and posts on Facebook and Instagram, and you can pay for these things, but you have to determine if it's really worth it for you. I'm not so sure I see it worth it in for my type of business, but and we have tried it in the past, and it's great for people to recognize who we are, but it's not like I have a retail store. If you have a retail store and you're having a big sale because Memorial Day weekend is coming, then hey, maybe you know what, an ad on Facebook might really make sense. Or you have a special promotion for your business because it's graduation season, and that's very typical on Facebook. A lot of people are posting lots of pictures, so that may be a space where you want to go. You really have to know before you go in terms of the use of your social media, and it has to be maintained on a regular basis. You know, if you're going to post today and not post for 6 months, you know, what happens in 6 months may not be relevant to what happened today. So try to be consistent with it. And if you don't have the time, then you can start out small by hiring somebody part-time. Look to the local colleges for those with English majors, journalism majors. These kids today grew up with social media. They're really whizzes at it, but you have to be monitoring it, and you have to know what kind of information you're looking to post with some sort of goals and objectives.
Yeah. A couple of things are coming to mind for me. One is when you were talking about, posting pictures of projects, that kind of thing. I'm thinking, I don't know if I've really ever thought about this before, but, people in response to that could actually even post a comment that's a review, right, of your business. So it would be important that if you're posting regularly, that you're keeping an eye on the comments, right, in Facebook or other social media platforms.
Yep, those are reviews. So if you post a picture and somebody writes, great picture, love the project, or great article, or you won an award, and so congratulations, all that information should be out there. Those are reviews. So hit like and thank them for doing that. Share it. You can have your staff share it. You can have families share it. On a regular basis, that's what should be going on.
Yeah. And on the flip side of that, somebody, I suppose, could say something negative too, right?
They could, and again, people are going to write on Facebook. You have a lot of control. You can take that down. So on some of the other sites you can't, but you have to monitor it. So don't make sure that you're getting alerts, school alerts, and otherwise about your business, so that you're checking that and somebody's looking at it on a regular basis, so that you can catch it immediately. Yeah.
It also occurred to me that maybe, social media platforms are a great way to highlight your exceptional customer service, or your a specific customer experience or something like that. Do people do that?
Yeah, you can take out one person, and I mean, my business people don't want to have their face plastered on social media about their debt resolution, even though they're super happy, but they don't really want to do that.
Yeah,
so
that makes sense.
Right, so, and I respect that. In certain instances, that's not practical, but in other instances, let's say you just had siding done, your siding company, and your client loves the house, or you're a real estate broker, and you just closed on, your client bought a house, and they're really happy for them. Take a picture, snap a picture, and say, congratulations to my buyers of this property, wishing you all the best. Right. And you almost created your own review.
Right. Yeah. Or it could be maybe, you know, highlighting the exceptional customer service provided by a specific staff member or something that
Yep,
you're,
you can highlight your staff. I love that idea. Highlight your, your employee of the week, employee of the month.
yeah.
If you're reopening your business, reopening excitement. We always have a dog in the office, so we do fun puppy stuff. I raise dogs for the Guide Dog Foundation and America's Vet Dogs, so we always have some sort of dog, and whether it's a puppy or an older dog in the office. So we highlight that, and we highlight birthdays. So, and one of my employees got married over the weekend. We highlighted a picture from that. So again, use opportunities in your business to show who you are. It doesn't have to all be about business.
Yeah. That personal touch too, right? Like, you know, they're seeing more of a, you know, seeing you in another light, and that way too. It's a real opportunity there for sure. What tactics should people use to, or business owners use to encourage customers to write those positive reviews online, right? Being proactive and asking for them.
I mean, you can offer a promotion if they write a review. In certain businesses. I can't in my business, but others can. We send out, if you had a good experience, you can send it out. Did you have a good experience with us? Sometimes you can do that through text. There's a service that does that. You can send it through email. You can ask for a review if they're in your, let's say, establishment. You can use a QR code and say, please review us, or how was your experience? Let us know how we did. So lots of ways to do that. Don't be afraid to ask. It's okay. If you had a good experience, would you mind? I say that to clients all the time. Would you mind writing that? We'll send you some links. Would you mind saying that, telling the public what your experience was? We'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, and I think too, especially even if they just share their experience, their really positive experience with you, right, verbally or something, to then say, hey, you know, would you mind putting that, you know, writing that online or doing a Google review,
Right.
or something like
I
that.
appreciate you telling me so much. Would you mind? And some people,
Right.
you know, in my business, they want it to be anonymous. So we tell them that it can be anonymous. It's no problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Let's talk a little bit more about how to encourage staff to provide exceptional customer service.
Your staff have to be really important to you, and you have to treat them well. If you don't treat them well and you have a toxic work environment, they're not going to be good to your customers. So, and you have to let them vent. Sometimes we vent here about what we experience, but I will always stand behind my staff over, I will not let them be abused or mistreated in any way. I will get right on the phone. So I don't allow that, but your staff have to be happy. You have to create a happy, good environment so that they're giving that, and consistently talk about what your expectations are with the customer experience. What do you want the customer to feel, think, or do, and the results be when you're there? Yeah.
Yeah, I quickly learned, you know, before I owned my bookstore coffee house, I had not managed a lot of people prior to that. So it was huge anxiety at first. It ended up being one of my favorite parts about the business, but I certainly learned very quickly.
You're in a minority there. Most people.
Well, I know.
Staff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it does make a difference enjoying that, you know, that piece of it, but I also learned quickly that, you know, if I serve my staff, then my staff will serve my clients, my customers.
Yeah.
The way I want them
And you
to.
also have to monitor who your staff are. Sometimes there's somebody who's super toxic and you need to get rid of that person, even though they may be one of your best employees. But if they're toxic, they could definitely cause a toxic environment. So just want to be aware of that, make them happy.
Yeah, absolutely. So important. And that so much of that is that communication back and forth, you know, that transparency, so that they know why they're there.
And they know that you support them.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And that trust and mutual respect is so important too.
Yeah.
For sure. Let's see here.
And remember, it's top-down management. So they're going to watch you. If you behave badly, they're going to behave badly. If you mistreat customers and don't care or do things, they're gonna carry on a lot of your persona. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that leading by example is so important. So any other creative approaches that you've seen other businesses do to ensure exceptional customer service? Aside from the reviews, I mean, you could offer coupons, free appetizers if you're in the restaurant side, certain tokens of appreciation, customer appreciation days. Once a month, maybe you have a customer appreciation day where you offer a discount. That's a good way. Referrals, if you refer somebody and get get a discount or a gift certificate, things like that. I would encourage you to do.
Yeah, definitely. We had a frequent buyer club that ended up being so popular, that
People like points.
yes, right. Exactly.
Rewards and points, but they have to be something that translates to something, because if you're using rewards and points and it never goes anywhere, then and it doesn't achieve anything, then there's no incentive. You sort of like holding a carrot in front of people's faces, and then they'll lose interest after a while. It needs to be something that encourages frequent use of your business.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we did $10 off of book purchases after so many, or a free coffee after so many, purchases, that kind of thing. So I can't remember the details. It's been a while, but
Something like that.
Yeah.
Creative.
Yeah, hugely popular, especially for the locals who were the repeat business, repeat.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Well, they're going to like that the most. It's a hometown feel. Even in bigger cities, there's still locals. Even in Manhattan, it's a neighborhood. So you still want to feel like that you recognize them. So a lot of it is also that too, that the recognition of the appreciation that you're patronizing them.
Yeah, right.
Nothing worse. There's a restaurant locally that I haven't been to in a long time, but a restaurant locally that I like the food, but there was a while where we were frequenting it often, and I would be like, this guy, the manager, I was like, this guy doesn't even look like we look at us like we even look familiar.
Yeah.
There's no recognition. Like it's just this stoic, can I show you a table? Thank you for coming. And it's not like, hey, I recognize you and you've been here before. It can't be that, one time I get, 2 times I get, but I was just like, it's just so odd that this person doesn't even look like they have any way of recognizing us.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I wasn't expecting anything, just more it was the first time we walked in every time. So it actually didn't make me feel warm and fuzzy about the environment. I felt like a bit of an outsider.
Yeah. Right. So much about the people behind the establishment, not just the food, the product.
Yeah.
Place.
Always say thank you for coming, welcome. I just think that's so important. I worked in retail way before I was in law school, retail for many, many, many years. And it's really about greeting people and making them feel super comfortable.
Absolutely, for sure. Let's see, we do have a couple questions. So one of them is, Leslie, what is the best locally owned business that you frequent, and tell us why?
So I'm downstate, and so my experience over the last year has been very different than it was pre-COVID. So I think that the business so it depends on what I'm doing. So if we're talking about a restaurant, it's going to be a particular restaurant that I like and feel comfortable at. If it's a service like indoor cycling, I'm very into indoor cycling. So I frequented a business that did indoor cycling on a regular basis, like a lunatic, pre-COVID, and then I got my own home bike. But mostly these days, again, because of COVID, I haven't really been in to a lot of local businesses, to be honest with you. But it would be a restaurant, and particularly sushi. So that would be my most frequented stop in the last year, maybe.
Uh-huh. And is it just about the food, or is it about a particular establishment that you love going to for customer experience, or?
So I have a better example, because I have a home in Florida. And so when I'm in Florida, I always go to the same place that I love. There's 2 local places I just love. One is a healthy eatery, and they have this shake that I can't wait to get it every time I go back to South Florida. So I go there regularly, because I love I just love that shake. I can't recreate it. I don't know what they do with it, but I just can't recreate it, even though I'm very good at making shakes. And then there's, so that's my favorite local place and why I go to that particular local place.
Mhm.
There is a store, a retail store that I really like here on Long Island that I go on a regular basis because I really love the customer service. It's a young woman who owns it. She's so sweet and nice, and there's never a problem with anything. She's always like, you could take it home. If you don't want it, you can bring it back. She's just so easy to deal with. It's never a challenge. And when I walk into her establishment, I feel that energy, that lightness about it. I don't feel pressure. I feel welcomed. It's like we chit chat about different things, and I just feel like I'm really comfortable there. So
Yeah.
I think that feeling of comfort as a customer, I think if you as a business owner think about how you feel when you walk into a place, I think that's an important, the energy in your business is really important. I think about that a lot for my business, even though in a long time we haven't had clients in our office, but I do think about the energy in the office space when people come in. You know, what is it that people feel when they come here? And I want them to feel really comfortable at home, not uptight, like, oh, I'm in a lawyer's office and it's like one step closer to being in jail.
Right. So you're saying, you know, sometimes it is a unique product, right? Like the smoothies that you crave until you get to Florida, but other times it really is about that one person, right? That's in the store creating an atmosphere or
she's the business owner. So I like that the business owner is there and I can have a conversation with her, and she's so super cool. Nothing's a problem. So, and I appreciate that. I don't want to have a problem. Like as soon as somebody gives me a hard time, I feel like, you know, it turns me off a little bit, especially post-COVID, because it's enough that I took the time to leave here I'm in my office, but aside from going to my office and my home, I haven't really frequented so many places. So it's enough that I went and did something like that. I don't want to feel anything but comfort.
So one other question was, do you ever recommend offering a gift certificate to people who had a bad experience?
Depends on why they had a bad experience. So not necessarily up front, but you could, but I like what we call in the restaurant business service recovery. So if they had a bad experience, I think it would depend on why they had a bad experience. If you run a coffee shop, it's really no big deal to say to them, hey, come back in, your next coffee's on us. We're sorry that you had this, or an ice cream shop. You know, if you had, if somebody, you know, you had a clothing store and somebody had a bad experience, you could offer them a discount next time that they come in. If you're a service business like us, you know, it's not like I can put online ethically, hey, by the way, your next, you know, legal fee will be discounted.
Right.
But again, so I think you need to look at it like that, because you don't want to encourage negative reviews, so that you don't want a windfall in the sense that, oh, look, the retailer was willing to offer them something. I think you should do it privately. I think if you do it publicly, it could encourage people to say, I didn't like my drink either. I didn't like my meal either. I didn't like this. And then, and then all of a sudden you have a windfall of people who are telling you that they didn't have a good experience with your establishment. And next thing you know, you have 50 people walking in looking for discounts, or people who read it and come in and then want to create an issue. So it wouldn't be my first go-to. Don't give it away necessarily.
At least not publicly, but maybe privately if it makes sense. Yeah.
I would try to look for the service recovery while the experience is happening, so that it avoids going to social media. You know, and being in your business and being aware of what's going on, you might be able to find that. You know, I'm listening to all the phone calls during the day, so I know when there's a challenge, and I want it brought to my attention if there's a challenge. And we, trust me, know who our challenging clients are. So, and they're all earmarked. So we know that when the phone rings and we can see the caller ID, what we're in for. You too need to, and that's okay. I'm in the service business. I get that, you know, we deal with difficult people, but with that said, you too know who's difficult and challenging as a business person, and just be prepared to handle it and know what that person is really looking for. There's a lot of psychology involved in the management of customers.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and I've heard you mention a couple of times too. It's just, you know, as business owners, it's so important to be engaged in what's going on with your business, you know, whether or not you're there every single day, right? But to at least be, you know, certainly very cognizant of the day-to-day customer service that's being provided.
Yeah, awareness. You have to be aware in your business. If you're an absentee owner, then there has to be somebody there who really can take your place and really care. Sometimes I walk into establishments and I say, there's clearly not an owner around, because there's no way that if I owned this business that I would let people behave like that.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Like, I got ice cream at a drive-up place the other day, and so normally I would expect, okay, you owe $5, please drive around. She says, is that it? I said, yeah. She said, okay. I was like, okay. I mean, I didn't have a huge expectation where I was, but still.
Yeah.
Come on. How about thank you? Please drive around. Like,
so a couple other questions before we've got a few more minutes with Leslie. So I encourage any other questions to come in the next couple of minutes. I have one or two others that I haven't addressed yet. One is, are there any service businesses that should never seek to have reviews online? And the person said, like, maybe a mortuary.
No, why?
Yeah.
I mean, why? But that's a very challenging business. I mean, when you have to go to, let's say, a funeral home or otherwise, you know, yes, they may not be thinking about reviewing you, but perhaps they, you know, it's a very challenging time in somebody's life. And why wouldn't you want to have reviews saying, this was a really sensitive, I had a really good experience, even though it was a bad time in my life, or I was going through these challenges. I lost a loved one, but they made me feel so comfortable and so at home and took care of everything. Why not? I just don't know that there's a business out there that I wouldn't want to be online. And I think if you're not online, you're missing the boat and you're missing a lot of potential. I don't know that there's any business that I know of that I wouldn't want, that I would recommend don't put it online. Because honestly, the whole next generation is all online. So if you're thinking that your business shouldn't be online, then you're going to be dead in the water, because the reality is that the next generation is all about what's online. Yeah. So that's the only way they're going to find you. And if somebody said, hey, go to the Tayne Law Group, and I went up to look who the Tayne Law Group was, and I couldn't find anything on the web, I would be nervous. Why can't I find anything about them? How come they don't have a website? They have no Facebook page? Like, what's up with that? And why isn't it updated? Or there's no information about this company. That would make me uncomfortable about doing business with them. So remember that it can really go the other way. I would definitely encourage you to have, now again, in the mortuary business, for example, you might not have a lot of people wanting to leave reviews, but you know what, a few weeks or months, or, you know, you send them a follow-up, or you're sending them follow-up paperwork or an email saying, we appreciate that you chose us for your for the recognition of your loved one. We would love your feedback when when you're up to it, or leave a review for us.
Right. As the timing probably.
Some of the, you want to be a little more sensitive how you write that, but and when you approach them on it. But I certainly wouldn't approach them immediately, but at some point in the future to say, hey, we're following up. I hope you had a good experience with us, and that we met your needs and expectations while you were going through a challenging time related to your loved one. I mean, again, you have to be creative with that.
Yeah, that's really sound advice. And it's also, the fact is we're online as businesses by default too. Even if we don't have a website, we're not on Facebook, right? Somebody could still leave a review.
Oh, 100%. It doesn't matter whether you're on there or not. People, I don't want to do this because people will find you. You're on the web.
Right.
Yeah, that ship has sailed the horses out of the barn. So get past that.
And especially if you're not being proactive about your reviews and that kind of thing, then chances are any review, or you're not being proactive in your social media efforts or your website or whatever, that chances are if you do get a review online, it's going to probably be negative, right? Because somebody
I just don't think it's that people can't find you.
Right.
And that you look like you're not an active business. Why look like you're not an active business? Especially post-COVID. Right. So try to be active and show your community that you are strong, you survive, that you support your community, support other businesses too. Support what goes on. If your customers come in and they have other businesses, support each other. Talk about co-branding.
I thought this was an interesting question. Do you have tips or, for setting expectations for your customers? Is that appropriate, or, when is that appropriate, right? Like, asking them to be patient because food, good food takes time, kind of thing.
Yes, I try to set expectations like in my legal practice early on. So when we have a conversation about once we're at the retainer process, I say, this is what you can expect from us next. This is what you can expect through the process. We have an open door policy. You can call as often as you like. You'll have direct access to accounting if you want to have updates of where the money has come and gone. And this is how you get in touch with me. We make an appointment to speak with me. So I try to set expectations very early on because I'm a very big communicator and believe in open lines of communication. If you're having a challenge and you run a business in your kitchen, you need to go out and say, I'll give you a good example. You need to go out and say, hey, we're having a challenge, we're a little behind. Can I buy you a drink? Dessert is on me. Service recovery is super important. We went to a restaurant, a local restaurant, stood there, and the woman there said, the hostess said, we can't sit you because we're behind in the kitchen. So we were like, and again, my husband's in the restaurant business. So I looked at him, he looked at me, and he said, you can't sit us because you're behind. So she said, no, I can't put anybody else at any table. So we could not believe that was the response, like that she would leave us standing there with other people standing there and not sit you and at least give them bread or let them order drinks. Like, how short-sighted are you that you wouldn't have them start ordering alcohol that's where you make your money? And we just listened to that. Eventually we walked out and we went to another local place. But with that said, that is not good customer service. And that is not, yes, I understand that the kitchen is behind. I get it, but sit them down and give them some bread and offer them something to send somebody over to have a conversation and like buy time. So like the order. Exactly. Or, do something like that, but set expectations early, have a conversation, welcome to our, it's a little more challenging in certain types of establishments. But again, like if you're trying to follow social distancing, talk about your social distancing in this, especially like with mask changes, that's a good one. So you could say, thank you for coming in. We still have a mask policy. We would like all our customers to feel comfortable when they're in our establishment. So we still have a mask policy. We really appreciate you, that you respect that's our decision to do that. So, and that's a challenging one, but that's setting expectations as opposed to having challenges with people when they come in right away. And if they don't want to stay and they say, I don't appreciate your mask policy, I don't believe in it, and I respect that. And it's not about right or wrong. It's just what we choose to do here. And I'm sorry about that. We'd love you to come in, but we would really like you to come in with a mask.
Yeah, I know it's that those upfront understandings and those setting expectations that are so important. It's even coming to mind for retailers, just making sure your hours are posted, right? So you don't have issues with that. If somebody thinks that you should be open at 10 on Sunday, but you don't open till noon, if that's posted not only on your doors, but online too, then those expectations are set, and
that's bad.
That
would disappoint me to the point where I probably wouldn't come back. I would be like, you got to be kidding me that you didn't update that someplace.
Right.
Or if I didn't check it, my fault, but definitely Facebook is so easy. It takes 1 second to lift up your phone and put it in there. It's a no-brainer. So, right. And if you're not used to using social media, get started. It does take time to sort of learn the nuances, but put it on there. Weather, we have weather issues too. And so not like you guys, but we have weather issues. And so we just make people aware if, for some reason our phones go down, we put it online. Yeah,
good. It's an opportunity really, to stay in touch with your customers and let them know what's happening with your business for sure. Well, Leslie, thank you so much. It's been really informative. I know helpful for those who attended. We have this recorded too, so we're going to be posting it on our social media platforms, speaking of. And so we really appreciate it and know that others will be getting a lot out of your recommendations and advice for sure.